Hello. I believe this is the fourth video audio recording for the class, fourth and final. And since we're doing expanded media today, I wanted to choose two mediums that I felt like really accentuated the works that were being conveyed in it. So, they are not mediums that were brought up in class, but, this is also about us bringing stuff into the class. So, anyways, the first one is this video game, What Remains of Edith Finch, and the other one, well, we'll get to it. Anyways, so the first one, What Remains of Edith Finch, is this, game that came out, I believe back in 2019. It follows the story of the girl, Edith Finch, who we are seeing through her eyes as the player, walking through this old house that belonged into her family that she left as a child, and she is now finally getting to see all of and go through her memories of her family's life. Anyways, so here's a better image of the house itself. The last one was the logo because the house has a pretty distinct silhouette. The house, part of the story is about the growth of the family over the course of several generations, and the constant addition of it, as well as sort of unacknowledged grief, because in this family they believe that they are cursed, where the children are going to always die young, and everyone in the family is going to have very tragic deaths. And the grandmother, who Edith is named after, which is also another tie in the story to sort of this repetition through generations, rather than acknowledging the issues and stuff, she memorializes every family member by making their old bedrooms after they die sort of a shrine to them, and makes these really detailed paintings of them and leaves them in the rooms, and no one's allowed to go in and touch anything, because it is now to be left just as it was after death. It's rather strange and macabre story, especially since a lot of the people whose rooms Edith is now getting to see for the first time are the siblings of her mom and previous generations, and her cousins who all died in these rather gruesome deaths. And when you go into each of the rooms, the different, deaths have different ways of, expressing them. There was one of her, who would have been her aunt's, Barbara. She was a child star in, horror films, so the way she, has her death explained, it's in this, sort of horror comic format, where, Edith reads it to, sort of see, what happened to her. And there was another little girl who used to write stories, so she accidentally ate some poisoned berries, and her death is explained through her hallucinations and writing stories. But anyways, so the medium. This was done in a video game format, which I think was integral to telling the story, because the design of the video game itself is basically a love letter to set design. There's so much detail put into every, character space, because each room is meant to define these characters who we never get to meet. Similar to, Edith, but we do get to, see who they were through this and discover who they were, or at the same time Edith does, as she's, building this family map for herself. Here you can see this is, the twins' rooms, and if I remember correctly, the blue side was, the twins, died at different times. The first twin who died, he actually, had an accident falling off a cliff because he wanted to fly so bad he swung himself off, which is, hinted at before with all these, rocket ships and the climbing that's made available on his side of the room. And the brother, who actually was Edith's grandfather, he dies, during, hunting, he dies hunting, and he, there's this sort of joke about that he got shot, but what actually happened was he was hunting, and he was also, a photographer, and when he was setting up the photo to take a shot with the deer he killed, the photo happened at the same time he fell off the cliff. So there's like all these really macabre deaths, but it's treated like an artistic scene. And so, like, being able to go through the space physically similar to Edith is a great way to, like, sort of articulate this. And it could be done in real life sort of as an installation, but it wouldn't be as accessible in that situation. And you also wouldn't have sort of, like, the developers wouldn't have been able to control as much, like, where the audience would go. Where, like, this is, the story does have free range movement throughout the house, but there is, like, a certain, like, way from between room to room where it's the easiest to go, so it becomes clear where you need to go in order to complete the storyline. Anyways, so, like, there's that, and then also, the juxtaposition in the story is, like, one of the big reasons I don't think this could be done in any other format or medium, is that, like, there's certain points, like, where we're trying to see through the perspective of the, like, family members. Like, this is the older brother of Edith, who she did remember, but she didn't know too well because he died when she was younger. But he had depression, and like he had a rather monotonous job of like cutting the heads off fish every day at a like cannery. That was his entire job. So like his thing was that he was fantasizing this better reality for himself, where he was like the king of everything. And as we're seeing the story go on, like, there's always this motion at the bottom of him moving the fish to cut it to remind, like, us as an audience, like, that he is, like, grounded in this reality, but simultaneously, there reaches points in the story, like, where it almost fades away completely. You still have to keep doing the motion to keep the story going, but it becomes such a monotonous thing you don't even notice you're doing it anymore, similar to how he wouldn't notice it anymore as he got lost into his own reality. Until, you reach the end point where there's this implication that, like, Louis ended up choosing to have to cut off his head, and because he, like, bends forward to get crowned a king, and when he does so, there is the guillotine that's been cutting the, like, fish heads in front of him that we as an audience know is there, but because the scene is completely, like, we don't see the cannery anymore, we know it's there through the motion. But anyways, so there's that, and also the layered writing of Edith, like, recalling her memories of her brother and the deterioration of his mental health. And it's these, like, layered nuances that would be hard to achieve just through a singular, like, visual or written, or even in comic format. It would be difficult to achieve, like, the three things because there wouldn't be the interaction. Anyways, sorry, tangent. So then the other one is this artist collective. Their name is Meow Wolf. And they did this piece that was an installation that I thought would be pretty relevant to sort of the expanded media. It's called Omega Mart. It's in Las Vegas because nothing this cursed could probably exist anywhere else, honestly. It is this fully functional like grocery store, but all the products in there sort of have this like distortion where they are not quite what they seem. And you can see, like, here, all the, like, there's this ominous sort of threat to it as you're in here, like, submit to savings and shop till you drop, and all these sort of, like, messages. Everything is sort of, like, it's, like, the threatening nature and the, like, suffocating thought of capitalism, and so I feel like there is no better form they could have achieved this through besides literally creating their own physical, like, market space to call it out. So all the products, they, quote-unquote, work because they are all what they are meant. They do have functional purposes, like whatever is within, like, the cans and bottles and boxes, but they are also, like, labeled in ways that are, like, heavily, like, confusing, because it's sort of like with the idea of Jasper Johns, like, we have iconography we heavily associate with things, so we're not going to be able to easily, like, let go of that. So, like, for example, the bottle here, who told you this was butter? Do not eat this, like, the refreshing spray, seriously do not eat this, is meant to, heavily implied to us the whole, like, I can't believe this is not butter, like, which it looks incredibly similar to the branding design, and logo of that, and the tint of the bottle itself almost makes it look like it's some liquefied margarine, but you're simultaneously having this dissonance of like the imagery and the product being shelved and the spray bottle all combined like with the logo makes probably likely that someone has attempted to eat this. But there are other products, include some like the P2000 Cracker Spackle peanut butter spread, which looking at it, like the first thought is the jar looks like peanut butter. There's the cracker image, but it's put on in a way that looks like they're using a spackler, which you use for when you're working in like building and construction, and calling it P200, and the formatting of the logo is similar to a lot of products used for again construction that you would find at a place like a Home Depot or a Lowe's, not a supermarket. So it creates this sort of like mental concern of it looks like peanut butter, it is called peanut butter, but is it safe to eat? Like and then like this is like my favorite one, non-toxic gender fluid, which was intentionally labeled to be looking simultaneously like a beverage and a cleanser, to sort of have it be like constantly switching between the two, you know, like gender fluidity. But anyways, so it's like labeled non-toxic, gluten-free, vegan, no sugar, universal high performance. It's lavender and lemon, naturally flavored, and sparkling water, multi-purpose. But anyways, so I thought this tied into the work we were seeing in class, as these are all not traditional mediums of art, but they like are the best way to have conveyed the intentions of the artists that were working on these. And so to do so, I felt like was probably an effective example that would be relevant to the class. Anyways, thank you.